I want to hear some ones from you, Chris, that you think people should be paying attention to in terms of offensive lines benefiting some really good ecosystems.
So the one that sticks out to me is the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, their offensive line coach, Dwayne Ledford, he's been able to put together a pretty decent unit over the past couple of seasons. They're going to be returning 4 or 5 starters. And of course, the entirety of the fantasy production for the Falcons really hinges around, well, what will we see out of Michael Penix? And we saw just him in 3 starts in 2024. He's able to push the ball downfield, at least relative to what we saw out of Kirk Cousins throughout the majority of the season. And of course, his aggression, his ability to have that 9-10 yard average depth of target, and also being able to funnel a lot of those looks to a wide receiver like Drake London was how we saw part of the breakout that we'd always wanted to see from London, but also just seeing that passing game evolve into what we were hoping we would see, a lot of the Sean McVay type concepts coming over from Zach Robinson when he came over with the Rams. So I can see a scenario where having a more, I would say, cohesive unit in front of Penix will allow him to continue to push the ball downfield. Of course, Drake London, we're already seeing him as a, let's say, second round staple. So in that high end wide receiver 1 type territory. But if we can see Michael Penix continue to have that aggression, still want to be some of that high flying attack that we saw in 2024, we might talk about him later, but could this finally be the year? And I'm just going to throw it out there right now. Could this be the year we see Kyle Pitts get back to where we want him to be from a tight end standpoint? I'm throwing it out there. Okay. I'm just throwing it out there for right now. But at the very least, if this offensive line allows Michael Penix to stay upright and push the ball downfield, the entirety of the Falcons offense should be able to benefit from it.
I totally agree with you. I'm really high on this ecosystem. Like, I think this could be one of those teams that really launches itself up the offensive just rankings, right? Especially because I don't know about you, buddy. I still don't have any faith in that defense. I think they're going to be like, we'll see. James Pierce, Jalen Walker, these young guys, but those are light defensive linemen. They're going to get run over by the rushing attack. So like, I think this is a team that's constantly going to be chasing points. And I don't know. I think I saw enough from Michael Penix to be cautiously optimistic, like intrigued this year. It's just, again, it's 3 games. We didn't see too much of him, and they were admittedly against some bad defenses. But I'm really intrigued with like what Zach Robinson can build. If you can't tell, I'm building up to the Kyle Pitts thing here. I'm trying to fortify myself to get up into this conversation. Yeah, you got, bro. You just threw him out there. You got to ease into the Kyle Pitts discussion.
That's right.
Like, warm it up here a little bit, man. No, but
I'm coming in hot
for this whole offensive ecosystem. Again, I think that Zach Robinson showed pretty well in year 1, and talked about this with Scott yesterday. I'm interested to see if they can add more gap scheme runs, if they can do some more vertical pass concepts, deeper out routes with Drake London. That fits well with Michael Penix's game. We saw that last year, and that brings me back to Pitts. What's interesting about Pitts is that if you look at the wide receivers right now, Darnell Mooney is already hurt. That's not great because this is Drake London's a dude. I said this to Scott yesterday, Chris. I would be comfortable clicking Drake London at like 11th overall. I'm very high on him. I think he's a first-round fantasy pick this
All right.
season. For the rest of the guys here, like Ray McLeod, Casey Washington, day 3 draft pick in 2024, I think Pitts can play like a true, real wide receiver role for this team, as like mostly a slot receiver. And he's honestly going to kind of have to, because in this system, he can't play inline tight end because he's not a net positive blocker. So do you have enough faith in him being deployed as kind of like in almost some of the ways that Drake London was deployed last year, as more of like a power slot receiver than you do as a true tight end? I think that's the question.
I think that's the case. And to me, the way that Pitts has been deployed on the field in previous years, it seemed like a stylistic mismatch with the quarterbacks that he was paired with. Because think about the guys that he had. I mean, he had Matt Ryan in the twilight of his career, and then it was Marcus Mariota, Taylor Heineke with his pop gun arm. And then, of course, now we see also Desmond Ridder, and then now we see Michael Penix. And now think about how the contrast the styles for each of those quarterbacks versus Michael Penix. Most of those guys, they do try and keep it short in intermediate parts of the field. And in just those 3 games we saw in 2024 from Penix, he was gripping and ripping it, bro. Like, he was ready to throw it downfield and take a lot of those hole shots, whether it was to Darnell Mooney for at least 1 game when Mooney was healthy, and of course those shots to Drake London as well. So with Kyle Pitts averaging around like 10, 11, 12 yards per reception over the first like 3-4 years, I can see his deployment matching better with Michael Penix than where we've seen him at in previous seasons. So I think at least that matchup alone gives me at least a bit more optimism about a guy like Pitts, whereas beforehand, no, he was never going to fit with Kirk Cousins, especially with the condition that we saw Kirk Cousins be in for the first 10, 14 weeks of the season. But now with Penix, and now if we can see him start to throw the ball downfield a bit more, that fits more in line with what Pitts can be as a receiver.
Two things here. Number one, I can't believe you Trojan horsed a Kyle Pitts discussion into the offensive line section of this podcast. Number two, I would bet my salary that Aaron, our social guy here, our excellent social media editor here at Yahoo Fantasy, is clipping this Kyle Pitts section for Twitter. I would bet my freaking salary on it because Kyle Pitts just gets engagement on social media.
All the time.
So but I will say, in the next segment, we're going to talk about guys, the third segment, we're going to talk about guys that you can't totally write off. And I do kind of think that Pitts, we can maybe squeeze him into that conversation as somebody that maybe we shouldn't totally write off yet. I think it would be foolish to assume it just can never happen because he has shown us good play in the NFL before. There's been injuries. I think that's the biggest thing, but he has shown us good play in the NFL before. So I'm willing to let you keep the candle lit here.